It's a strange kind of heartbreak. When you start realizing not everyone who claps for you is actually rooting for you. Sometimes what we call friendship is really just a familiar kind of pain we've learned to tolerate. The truth is, not all harm feels harsh. Some of it hides behind shared memories, inside jokes, old photos, but your nervous system always knows. And over time, so does your heart. So today we're going to walk through 5 quiet signs, 5 ways a friend might actually be moving like an enemy. Not to create suspicion, but to offer clarity. Because once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. And that's where your power begins. Before we begin, give yourself the gift of being fully here. Don't skip around. Let each part unfold. This isn't just a list, it's a lens. Each truth will meet you where you're ready. And if this kind of reflection speaks to something real inside you, I invite you to subscribe. Not for noise, but for nourishment. This space is for those who are reclaiming their peace, one honest moment at a time. Sometimes the most painful realization isn't that someone hurt us, but that we kept letting them. Let's begin. Sinun, they compete with your pain. There's a particular kind of loneliness that hits when you're sharing something vulnerable, and instead of being met with presence, you're met with performance. You open up. Your voice might even shake a little. You're not trying to be dramatic. You're just trying to be real. Maybe you talk about the burnout you've been carrying quietly for months, or the grief that still lingers long after everyone else has moved on, or a deep insecurity you've been working through in silence. And just as you begin to feel the courage rise in your chest, they interrupt. They jump in with their own story, just a little more painful, just a little more chaotic, just enough to shift the focus back to them. Suddenly the air changes. It's no longer about what you needed to release. It's about what they needed to win. That moment might seem small, insignificant even, but your body remembers. You walked in with a wound and walked out wondering if it was even valid, if it even mattered, if you even mattered. You start to second guess. Was I too much? Maybe I should have kept that to myself. Maybe I'm the one being selfish. But take a breath. Come back to the truth. It's not oversharing when it's shared with the right person. It's only unsafe when the space was never sacred to begin with. There's a quiet kind of emotional competition that plays out in certain friendships. A need to always match or top the moment, no matter what. But pain doesn't need a scoreboard. Suffering isn't a contest. You don't need someone to one-up your wound. You need someone who can witness it, hold it gently, let it breathe. This isn't about expecting someone to fix you. It's not even about them having all the right words. It's about presence, stillness, respect for the sacredness of someone else's truth. A real friend knows that your pain doesn't take away from theirs. It doesn't threaten them. It doesn't need to be outdone. A real friend listens to understand, not to respond, not to redirect, not to shift the light. And if this is striking something inside you, a memory, a moment, a name that just popped into your heart, let that awareness rise. No judgment, just clarity. It's okay to outgrow the places where your pain was never met with peace. It's okay to outgrow the people who needed to be louder than your breaking point. You are not too much. Your pain is not an inconvenience. You deserve the kind of connection that doesn't ask you to shrink so someone else can shine. So the next time you feel that lump in your throat, the ache to share something raw, pause and ask yourself, is this a space that holds or a space that compares? And then honor the answer, even if it means speaking less or walking away more. Sometimes healing begins the moment we stop begging others to understand us and start standing quietly with the truth that we do. But the next sign shifted something even deeper for me. Sign 2. They encourage you to play small and call it love. You share a new idea, something that's been whispering in your heart, a business you've been dreaming about, a path you've never walked before, but one that feels like you. You light up as you speak, even if it's just for a moment, and then you hear it. Are you sure that's really you? I mean, I just don't want you to get hurt. That sounds like a lot. What if it doesn't work out? At first, it sounds like care, like concern, like they're just being protective. But if you listen closely, really listen, it starts to feel different. It's not about what's best for you. It's about what's most comfortable for them. Because your growth, your expansion, means they have to get to know a new version of you. And not everyone is willing to do that. Some people love the version of you who doubted herself, the one who needed to be reassured, the one who asked for advice, not space. The moment you start taking up more room, emotionally, spiritually, professionally, it creates tension for those who only knew how to love your smaller self. Here's something that took me years to understand. Not all resistance is yours. Sometimes that quiet voice in your head, the one that whispers, "You're doing too much. Who do you think you are? Stay safe, stay predictable." It isn't your fear, it's someone else's projection, echoing in your mind as if it belongs to you. It might be your friend's voice, or your partner's, or even a parent's. And the longer you keep it there, the harder it becomes to distinguish their limitations from your truth. Here's a question worth asking yourself. When I shrink, who benefits? Because love, real love, doesn't keep you small. It doesn't tether you to yesterday's version of yourself. Real love evolves with you. Real love cheers for the version of you that's still becoming. Real love might challenge you, yes, but it never tries to contain you. Let me tell you a story. I remember telling someone close to me that I wanted to take a big leap, something bold, something that scared me and thrilled me at the same time. Their face didn't light up. It tightened, and then came the words, "That's not really you though, right? I mean, that's not the version I know." That version they were referring to? She was tired. She was always second-guessing herself. She asked for permission to exist fully. And they had grown used to that dynamic. My growth threatened their comfort because it meant the roles were shifting, and they didn't want that shift. So instead of supporting the leap, they wrapped their fear in softness and handed it to me like a gift. But it wasn't a gift, it was a leash. If someone's love only shows up when you're playing small, it's not love, it's management, it's containment. You don't owe anyone your stagnation. You don't have to keep shrinking so they can keep feeling stable. You don't have to stay within the version of yourself that made them feel needed. You are allowed to expand, to be too much for people who prefer your silence, to evolve beyond the box someone else put your potential in. And so I'll ask you this. What dream have you been holding back on? Not because it doesn't feel right, but because you're afraid someone in your life won't recognize you anymore if you chase it? And who are you still shrinking for? Breathe into those questions, not with judgment, but with compassion. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to see clearly. This next one is quieter, but in many ways even more revealing. Sign 3. They vanish when you shine. You finally feel it. that subtle but powerful shift inside you. Maybe it's the job you work so hard for finally coming through, or a new relationship that feels safe, for once. Maybe it's something less visible, but just as meaningful, a deeper sense of peace you carved out for yourself after years of chaos. And naturally you want to share it, not to brag, not to perform, just to let someone in on the beauty of your becoming. So you send the message, you pick up the phone, you tell the person who's been around for so much of your before about this new after that's starting to bloom. And then silence. They leave the message on read, or they say something dry like, "That's cool." Or maybe they say nothing at all. And in that quiet, something inside you sinks, not in confusion, but in recognition. Because deep down, you already know. They saw it. They just couldn't handle it. They can mourn with you. They can empathize with your struggle. They were there when things were messy and uncertain and hard. But now that you are rising, now that things are starting to feel good and grounded and true, they disappear. Not physically maybe, but emotionally, energetically. They begin to withdraw in subtle, almost deniable ways. There's a kind of friend who only knows how to love you when you're low, because when you rise, it challenges something in them. Maybe it reminds them of everything they haven't done, or maybe it just disrupts the dynamic they were used to, where you were the one who needed support, who leaned, who struggled, who stayed small. Your shine disrupts their shadow, and instead of sitting with that discomfort, they vanish into it. But here's what's important to remember. Real friends don't just mourn with you, they rise with you. They light up when you light up. They don't need the spotlight because your joy doesn't threaten their worth. When you win, they feel it as a shared celebration because they love the version of you that's finally free. So when someone disappears in your light, ask yourself, were they ever really with me in the dark? Or were they just attached to a version of me that was easier to feel superior to? More predictable, less threatening. Your success doesn't have to make everyone comfortable. Your peace doesn't need to be dim so others don't feel insecure. Your growth is not a betrayal. And if someone's absence starts to echo every time you step into joy, it's not your responsibility to chase them. It's your responsibility to protect the light you've worked so hard to find. You deserve to be celebrated without shrinking. Let that be the standard. Let that be the filter. Because the people meant for you, they'll never go quiet when you start to shine. They'll clap the loudest, even when no one's watching. And then there's the one that hit me in the stillness. There's a sign for, they mirror you, but only to manage you. You've probably felt it before. That strange closeness, the kind that moves fast, effortless at first, they get you. You're into the same books, the same music. You laugh at the same weird niche things most people don't notice. They dislike the people you're unsure about. They love the things you're currently obsessed with. It feels like you finally found someone who's on your wavelength. And maybe you have. Or maybe they're just really good at mirroring. Because for a while, it doesn't feel manipulative. It feels like connection, like resonance, like safety. Until the moment you disagree, until you express a need, until you draw a boundary. And then, the warmth changes, the smile hardens. Their responses become colder or oddly reactive. And suddenly, this person who once mirrored your world so seamlessly starts to feel like a stranger. That's when you realize it wasn't really connection, it was calculation. Because some people don't connect, they collect your preferences, your triggers, your stories, not out of care, but out of control. To get close enough to you that they can influence how you move, what you say, how far you go. They don't want relationship. They want access, but only on their terms. And the moment you stop being easy to influence, the moment you stop being agreeable or available or predictable, you stop being useful to them. It's subtle, it's rarely loud, but it's real. They start to withdraw or criticize you in ways that sound like feedback, but actually feel like pressure. They question your intuition, challenge your clarity, and slowly you begin to shrink, not even realizing you're editing yourself in their presence. You used to feel expansive. Now you feel careful. That's the cost. Not just your peace, but your authenticity. This sign is harder to see because it hides behind charm. It wears the costume of support. It mimics understanding. But true connection doesn't require mimicry. True connection holds its own form. It doesn't need to become you to love you. So if someone only aligns with you as long as you're pliable, as long as you agree, as long as you never draw a line, that's not love. That's emotional management. And love doesn't need to manage you. It meets you fully, freely, even when you shift, even when you say no, especially then. So ask yourself, do they celebrate the moments when I reclaim my voice? Or do those moments create tension? Do they respect who I am, even when that changes? Or do they only connect with the version of me that's easy to handle? You don't need to stay in relationships where your identity has to be negotiated. You are not here to be mirrored. You're here to be met. The last sign, it's the most manipulative because it's the most inconsistent. Sign 5, they show up just enough to keep you tethered. Final section. Quiet, powerful, and deeply honest. The tone remains emotionally grounded and steady, like a wise friend sitting across from you, saying what you've needed to hear for a long time. Gentle ambient music continues. Slow, open tones. A sense of emotional gravity sets in. The speaker's voice is calm, deliberate. They don't disappear completely. That would make it too obvious, too easy to let go. Instead, they linger. They hover on the edge of your life, just enough to stay in orbit, just enough to confuse the part of you that still hopes. It's subtle, a message out of nowhere, right when you've started to detach, a reaction to your story, a memory they resurface, a carefully timed just thinking of you. It always seems to arrive at the exact moment you start pulling away. And for a second you feel something, that flicker of connection, that soft ache of nostalgia. The maybe starts speaking louder than your no. But here's the truth most of us learn the hard way. It's not love, it's control. You're not being held. You're being managed, one breadcrumb at a time. And they've learned just how much to give to keep your hope alive, without ever offering anything real. You're always almost close, almost valued, almost chosen, almost seen, but never fully, never consistently, never without needing to chase it. They don't offer presence, they offer possibility. And you start living in that space between what is and what could be. And that space, it's exhausting. It erodes your clarity, your peace, your ability to trust your own intuition. You start doubting your gut because every time you're ready to walk, they do just enough to make you stay. It's a cycle, one that looks like connection on the outside, but feels like confusion on the inside. Here's the hardest part. They don't even have to be cruel. They can be kind, charming, even gentle. But emotional inconsistency is still manipulation. It doesn't have to be loud to be harmful, because anyone who plays with your hope knows exactly what they're doing. You deserve more than almost. More than someone who only shows up when they sense you drifting. More than just enough attention to keep your heart confused. You deserve clarity. You deserve consistency. You deserve someone who meets you with presence. Not patterns, not games, not nostalgia packaged as care. And if that means choosing solitude for a while, choose it. Because peace is better than being tethered to someone who only sees your worth when they feel it slipping away. You're allowed to stop checking your phone. You're allowed to stop waiting. You're allowed to stop feeding a connection that only feeds on your hope. It's not cold to walk away. It's kindness to yourself. If something here is opening a door for you, don't walk through it alone. Subscribe and stay connected. We're building something slow and real here. A community that honors healing over hustle. Let's take a breath together. We walked through 5 signs today. The friend who competes with your pain. The one who shrinks your light under the guise of care. The one who disappears in your joy. The one who mirrors you for control. And the one who breadcrumbs your worth. Each one is a mirror, and sometimes the most radical form of love is letting go. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in peace. Your energy is sacred. Your time is sacred. And the people you allow close to your heart, they should be too. You're not too sensitive. You're not imagining things. You're simply becoming more aligned with what's real. And that kind of clarity, it will cost you some people, but it will return you to yourself. Let me know in the comments. What's one way you're protecting your energy these days? I read them. I reflect with you. You're not alone. Not here. Until next time, stay gentle, stay grounded, and above all, stay true. Peace isn't the absence of people, it's the presence of truth.